All right, how's everybody doing tonight? Welcome back to Make Comics Fun again. I'm hopefully going to have a good, well, we'll not say long, but at the very least, a good live stream talking about, I think, Batman comics. I want to talk about that a couple of weeks ago. So if someone could just give me a shout out in the chat to make sure that you can hear me, that would be great because I don't want to be talking to myself. Got a couple of regulars here. Sarge is in the chat. So is Vaz. Pedro's here. 575, no, 527 is here. Manny is here. Rex is here. Vaz is here. And Sage says they can hear me. Great. So, just right off, I just want to apologize to everyone for dumping my Wednesday live streams for a couple of weeks. So it was about a month. I was just going to give you a little short explanation because I actually think you deserve it. My chat deserve it. I'm not going to give it on the main channel with the Saturday videos with random people, but you people, since I canceled my Wednesday live streams, just quickly, before we get into fun stuff, I got to deal with some other things and let y'all know that I talked on my Saturday live stream or my Saturday video about how the fact that I am where I am right now because I'm looking after my elderly parents. And that really kicked in about 2 years ago when things started to go downhill a little bit. And about a month ago, my father had a heart attack and he went to the hospital and things just did not get better from there. So it was a hard time, hard couple of weeks. And unfortunately he was, well, we'll say hopefully, fortunately, he was called back to the Lord about two weeks ago and been dealing with that for the last month or so. So, that's where my mind has been at. And I wasn't up to doing live streams. I was barely getting my Saturday videos out just to make sure that YouTube didn't shut down my channel. That was about it, that's why they were getting short as well. My Saturday videos are getting pretty short. There's almost 15 minutes, I think the last one was, because I was just trying to get myself into a headspace where I could do something different. Anyways, so that's where I've been for the last little while, and just wanted to say that to my chat because you guys are great. And I look forward to Wednesdays and talking to the chat and listening and asking you or answering your questions, talking with you. And I apologize for not being here on Wednesdays. Hopefully nothing like that will happen for a long time because my mother is still here with us. So, still have someone to take care of. Anyways, let's see. We want to talk about Batman today. I think I just want to go over some Batman questions for you all because Batman is a character that everybody's going to have a take on, right? And I figured we'll ease back into fun comics by talking about something that everybody has an opinion on. So if anybody here is new to the chat, apologies for the downer at the first of the chat, but we usually try to talk something fun about comics. This is the fun side of my channel. It's supposed to be, whereas I'm pretty dour on Saturdays sometimes. You want to hear some fun chat and some fun questions or any questions at all for me, just put them in the chat. Make sure you either tag me or put a question mark, and I'll try to get through all the questions before I finish the chat. And in case anybody wants to know, the trailer that you watched, the first was for Fade to Blue, my new books that we're working on, still working on Crom the Destroyer as well, and a few other books as well, Artemis and also Thomas Valiant #2. Any questions about that, put those in the chat as well. But the trailer is for Fade to Blue, which is basically a cross between film noir. It's like an Indiana Jones movie if it was film noir. And that's what I'm doing. But again, trying desperately to get Crown the Destroyer out before we put out anything else. So yeah, any questions in the chat, just put them, or any questions for me, just put them in the chat. Let's see. See who else is here. Okay, Rex is here and Vaz is here. So, I apologize severely for how far we are behind on Crom the Destroyer. But the point was that for Crom the Destroyer, I put the due date for it actually shipping out way early, much earlier than I should have, because I've had 3 artists lined up to do each of the chapters at the same time. And now it's gone to one artist doing almost the entire book. So that's really the gist of it. So, you can't expect somebody to do 80 pages worth of work in the time that he would normally do 20. That's just not conceivable. But okay, let's go to, I want to share, let's see, I have something open here. Just give me a second here. I want to go to, let's see. I want to go to this cover. Well, here we go. We'll go to some Batman covers with the Batman family. Okay, I'll just put these on the screen for now. See if I can make it a little bigger because it's just me here. And you don't need to see me. No, it's as big as I can get it, I think. Okay, so I'll throw out this random, easy question for everybody that's in the chat. And that question is, what is your favorite genre? Well, it's not genre. What is your favorite timeline of Batman? What is your favorite Batman? If you want to put who the writer is or the artist is or what decade it's in or anything like that, can't be Batman, movie Batman, television Batman, let me know in the comments what your favorite Batman is. I would say, well, I grew up in the Batman family kind of stuff. This stuff we're looking at in the background, right? It's well, kind of campy stuff from the 60s. Not that I was around in the 60s, but because those are the comics that were just sitting around our house at that time because of my brothers and uncles and stuff like that. So Batman family was, because these are giant magazines. I don't know if anybody remembers the Batman family comic, but it was usually, what was it, about 100 pages for a lot of them anyways. So they're a square bound. So you have some very interesting things like the Joker's daughter and all that kind of stuff. So you got stories. This is back in the time where there's no continuity. So you can do something and then erase the entire timeline and start anew with the next issue. That was DC's plan, according to Jim Shooter, as he was working there. That's what he said they were doing at that time. But we're getting into Jim Aparo stuff here. Okay. We have Jim Aparo art, and I would say the best, we'll say the greatest. We'll say that. I won't say the best because we're comparing apples to oranges with some of these artists. But I would say Jim Aparo is probably the greatest Batman artist that I can think of, quite honestly. And he did some iconic Batman stories and covered the timeline around Crises on Infinite Earths and brought Batman into the continuity of Crises on Infinite Earths and all that kind of stuff. So let's go through a couple of your comments, see if anybody has any Batman suggestions about what they love the best. Rex says, RJ, I'm curious, have you read any of the original Doc Savage books? I'm currently reading a pastiche crossover book of him and the Shadow. No, I actually have not. I've listened to some of the, I don't know if it was radio plays or not. I can't remember. There was stuff on YouTube too as well, the books that they were being read out. But I haven't read any of the Doc Savage books that I can think of besides the comics that I've run across. None of the pulp books that Doc Savage ones. But I'm getting more and more into trying to read that kind of stuff right now. What I'm doing right now is I read The Hobbit over again. For the first time, I started reading Lord of the Rings probably since, I don't know, I was in grade school, reading the entire thing from cover to cover. I'm in Helm's Deep, so about what, 1/3 of the way through the two towers. And when I finish the Lord of the Rings, I'll move on to Silmarillion and probably into some stuff which I never really got around to, like the Tom Bombadil stories and things like that. And when I finish or get close to finishing, I'm going to start rereading a lot of the Conan stuff. I think I want to find physical books. So I'm only going to read things I have physical books for, because all I do usually is I read like a page or two when I have a moment. So Doc Savage might be on there. The Shadow might be on there as well. I'm going to look for really good stuff to sink my teeth into. So I never thought about Doc Savage. Thanks, Rex. I should look into that. Michael says, let's see. Michael says, Adam West Batman may be super 60s, but it's still a great show. I don't remember watching the original because I wasn't alive during the original stuff that came out. But by the time I was around, it was, I don't know, it was like a Saturday, late Saturday. They would rerun the show on different shows or things like that, depending on where you were. So I did watch a lot of it. And I remember the local rundown little theater playing the Adam West Batman movies. which I don't know if they're actually movies or just spliced together bunches of shows or not, but the ones with the what was it? I remember it was the shark repellent one. Yeah, I definitely saw that one in the theater. It was right before they started to have Tim Burton's Batman, so they were trying to get people interested in Batman again. So, you know, Rex says 90s cartoon Batman. There you go, 90s cartoon Batman. I think that what is it? What's his name? Gordon. What the heck is his name? Who's doing the 90s Batman right now, or has been for the last little while? I can't think of his name off the top of my head. Anyways, a lot of people would agree with 90s Batman cartoon. Although I have to ask this question, Rex. So let me ask this question just for anybody in the chat, actually. I don't watch a lot of the DC stuff that comes out. It's all patterned after the 90s Batman cartoon, if you ask me. Some would say it's patterned after the Superman, but I would say it's more the Batman stuff. But I never really got into watching any of that stuff. Quite honestly, I only watched the 90s Batman cartoon because I was working on a farm at the time and they were playing it at lunchtime. And usually someone would turn on the television while we're eating our lunch in the bunkhouse. And that's the only thing that would be on. So that's why I watch them all. Sit there and watch it as we're eating our lunch because we got like 2 channels in the middle of nowhere. Anyways, but my question being that, does anybody find that they liked the 90s Batman cartoon more because of its limitations, and that those limitations are not in the present stuff that they put out? Even though it looks the same, it's not the same because the limitations of the 90s Batman cartoon, and it was very limited. The artists and the people who wrote the entire thing basically have come out and said, yes, our hands are tied on a certain amount of things. We just couldn't put this, that, and the other thing in because it was a cartoon on and it was for children and all that kind of stuff. So I would say that it did limit their ability to tell the story, but like with all things that I talk about, when I talk about the limitations of comics and comic book stories, I say limitations are a good thing. Working within your limitations is a good thing because, well, basically it makes it much more of what a comic is, which is a collaboration of different ideas and different people and different limitations. And it's really, as a person who's made comics now, something that makes it flourish, if you ask me. So that's the question for the chat. For the Batman stuff, was it good because of its limitations and basically what you would call censorship today, because they said, no, you can't put these things in because it's a kid show? Or was it good for other reasons, and those reasons were gotten rid of when they got into the newer stuff? Anyways, that was a bit of a rant. Manny is here, and Manny says, hey, RJ, I have a quick question about Batman. When he started, is it true he had a gun with him? Yeah. No, let me put it this way, Manny. I don't believe that he had a gun per se in every issue, but he did use guns. There's definitely an early story where he basically uses a Tommy gun, or it's if I remember correctly, it was a machine gun mounted on an old biplane, and he just guns people down. So yeah. Definitely used guns, to say the least. Let's see. Rex agrees with me. He said, yes, he did. He definitely used guns. I don't know if he had guns in every issue or actually had a gun as a standard practice for, part of his like utility belt. Anyways, let me change the covers around here just a little bit. You'll see some fun Batman covers. Michael says, my favorite Batman is the original Batman, the animated series, but I'm still very fond of Batman from Justice League and Justice League Unlimited cartoons. Well, I hadn't thought of that, Michael. That is a good, because to me, I would say Justice League America did some really good things with Batman as a character, and did the art for that as well, and it was beautiful. You had the rivalry between Batman and Guy Gardner, and he was basically the head of the Justice League at that time. So yeah, that I had not thought of that. That is a really good portrayal of Batman, if you ask me. At the same time, well, not at the same time, but prior to that, might have been at the same time. He was also the head of The Outsiders. So Batman did have, which again, Jim Aparo, you're looking at Jim Aparo art in the background. I think Jim Aparo did a lot of The Outsiders, Batman and The Outsiders as well, before the book became a premium comic where you could only get it in the comic store. It was printed on Baxter paper. When it was just The Outsiders, the only place you could get it was at the comic store. Prior to that, it was Batman and The Outsiders, and you could get it wherever on the newsstand, and that was good stuff as well. So there was a lot of good different takes on Batman during, well, it was probably the mid 80s to late 80s. Yeah, it's about mid 80s if memory serves. But yeah, I had forgot about that iteration of Batman. Vaz says, sadly, I'm a superhero fan. I rarely read Batman. I got the Batman Family miniseries by Byrne, though, and liked it. Okay, very good. Well, again, this is why I wouldn't say Jim Aparo is the best artist to have done Batman, because there are some spectacular artists that have worked on Batman, and not downplaying Jim Aparo at all, but I'm just saying that there's a lot of things to consider. You could not put them all into one basket and just pull out the best. It's apples and oranges. Some artists are just so beautiful, and some just, I mean, look at I can't even look at how many people have worked on Batman. Okay, again, Jim Aparo is my favorite, but you got John Byrne, of course, and you got Frank Miller, and you got Alan. Was it Alan Davis? Wasn't I think it was Alan Davis worked on him for a little while. Just so many great artists. You even had, I don't know if you had Jack Kirby working on Batman at all. He did work on Superman. I can't remember if Jack Kirby worked on Batman at all. Someone tell me that in the comments. Let's see. Pedro says, the legendary last stand of heroic Batman, when he spoiled his own end to Superman, it was the most ballsy thing I ever said to any superhero ever. Not sure. I'm not sure what you're referring to, Pedro. Legendary last stand of heroic Batman. I'm not familiar with that. Although it does bring to mind the World's Finest. To me, the old World's Finest. Anyways, the very, very old World's Finest comics, which were Batman and Superman together. And it was just Batman and Superman. And I think the original, I always tell this story because I think the first World's Finest story was them getting together because Batman said to Superman, I have a bomb planted on a individual in this city, and I will detonate it unless you do what I say. So he got Superman to do his bidding, and Superman came back after doing whatever Batman couldn't get done because he was just a mortal man. And he said, okay, you're an evil person. Tell me where this bomb is. And Batman says, this bomb is right here. It was on me. I was the person I was going to explode if you didn't help me. So that weird interaction actually made them become friends, if I remember correctly, from World's Finest, the original World's Finest. Scrolling down. Rex says, RJ, the best place for collections of Conan are the Del Rey books. Yep. Again, I'm just looking for, I don't really have, I have some Conan books, but I want to have more, just old pulp books. And again, stuff that I can carry around and it gets beaten up. Don't care. Like my copies of the Lord of the Rings are just old beat up things that I just throw in my car. I go everywhere with it. Basically, the book comes with me everywhere in case I need to sit down and not do anything. I just read. I'm trying to get off my devices more and actually just read. Let's see. Michael says, I did like the Michael Keaton and Val Kilmer Batman movies, but George Clooney phoned it in. Yeah, I think by the time Val Kilmer got there, it was pretty bad. Even the Michael Keaton was starting to get long in the tooth when he left. But yes, a lot of people did like it. I don't think it's anywhere near my favorite iteration of Batman, but I will give it credit for giving a shot in the arm back into Batman and turning it into something serious again. But again, I would say you shouldn't get too serious because The Dark Knight was just too serious. Sarge says 60s Batman will teach children more about the English language than a high school education. Yeah, most probably. Wouldn't disagree with that, Sarge. Rex says, RJ, the actor's name is Kevin Conroy, who passed away last year. Okay. Oh, look, there's John. Let me just tell you. John says he's stuck at work. Have fun, everyone. I missed talks with RJ. Yes, I was hoping to do a comic book team up tonight, but John is back on nights, and that means he is working right now. And after that, he will probably not be home until the wee hours of the night. It's too bad, John. You should be. Well, actually, the game would be over right now. It's 10 o'clock. But where you should be right now, well, you should have been a couple of hours ago instead of at work, was at the Red Sox Yankees game. That's where you should have been. Just to let you know. Okay. I don't know how much of those tickets even be. I know that you can't get tickets unless you're a resident of the tri-state area, but hey, there's that. Anyways, let's see. Scrolling down. So yes, I missed my talks with John as well. I haven't got to talk to him in a while. We will hopefully try to get something going together. Rex says, RJ, the limitations of the cartoon did help it, though they did push some of the limits, but I'd say that it helped make it watchable for people of all ages, and I'd say also had stuff there gone now. And I'd say it also had stuff there gone now. Not sure what you mean by the end, but okay, Rex. Here's the thing about the Batman series, and again, I just didn't even think of this until right now, but it's the introduction of Harley Quinn, of course, which was a great character for a while until we get to modern comics, and then they completely ruined everything with the whole, turning into a Poison Ivy and Harley Quinn duo when it should have been Harley Quinn and Joker. But anyways, Rex says, RJ, the 90s Batman animated series is in the same continuity as the 90s Superman cartoon, the Justice League and the Justice League Unlimited, and the Batman Beyond cartoons. Okay. Well, I do remember the Batman Beyond cartoons again because I worked at that farm long enough so that I watched all of them, the Batman Beyond as well. But yes, I do remember that he was the one who gave the kid the Batman suit and all that kind of stuff in Batman Beyond. Michael says, in the Justice League and Justice League cartoons, they were actually forbidden from using Batman villains, so the show wouldn't take over Batman and become another Batman cartoon. That was actually a smart thing to do. If you ask me, that is a smart thing to do. Rex says, there was a Batman embargo where creators on DC cartoons were limited on what Batman-related characters they could use because the producers feared people would get confused on continuity. Again, see, these are limitations that I can agree with. I mean, this is stuff it's not, I mean, it's just based on merit. It's based on consideration of what's going to do well and what's not going to do well, and whether or not our audience is going to like it, all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, again, this stuff makes sense to me. Oh, again, here we go. On the right-hand corner here, the Batman family cover. You have a guy with one hand is a chainsaw, another hand is an axe. I don't know how he opens doors. But hey, this is this is the kind of stuff you get within the old Batman family stuff. Let's see. What else we got here? Manny says, the 90s Batman was good, but my favorite has been the 2004. It focused on younger Bruce Wayne, and the show had some great stories. Okay. I'm not aware of that 2004 version of the Batman. That's a good thing to look up and see. Jewel is here. Jewel says, that was Byrne's Man of Steel, wasn't it? It didn't make any sense because they already knew each other. Was that Byrne's Man of Steel? I didn't think so. I thought it was World's Finest. Maybe I'm being confused. Well, if I am, I apologize. Let's see. Vaz says, oh, I found the real name. It wasn't Batman Family. It was Superman and Batman Generations 1999. 1999. Okay. Again, don't remember that iteration of Batman. But again, stuff I'll have to look up. Let's see. Michael also says the 2004 cartoon, The Batman, was an interesting reboot of several Batman characters and stories, and the redesigns were done to separate it from the 90s cartoon. Again, stuff that I can agree with. You're looking for a new audience. You're looking for giving people what they want. Rex says, Personally, I always suspected they put Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy together just to please the girl on girl is hot crowd. Yeah, basically. That's I agree 100% with that, Rex. Makes no sense to me. Ruin a perfectly good character for a sliver of the reading population who basically is not going to buy your book to begin with. Not because of that, anyways. Especially in the age of the internet where you can get it for free. Rex says, oh, right there. Jules talking to Rex. Let's see. All right, I think I got to the end of the chat here, but we'll keep going for a little bit. I'm going to go, let's go through some of these Batman covers from these Batman family stuff, and then I'll pull something else up. There's the original one from the thumbnail that I made, which is a great cover. I don't know who does that cover, though. It's not Jim Aparo stuff here. I don't know this artist off the top of my head. I'm sure if John was here, he'd be able to tell me right off. But again, here's a funny thing. Again, going back to this old Batman family stuff, I bet you not a lot of you would have put Man-Bat in the Batman family, but back in the 60s, you had Man-Bat in the Batman family with Huntress as well. Let's see. We got some beautiful stuff here, but that's the end of the Ragman. That was an interesting character that was I think we're getting into the 70s here. Early 70s, we have Ragman. That was interesting character to say the least. All right. So let's see. We'll stop sharing this and I will let's see if I reduce myself. Put Cardinal in the background until I find some new covers there for a second, and I'll explain. Cardinal is basically the character that you're looking at right now. Most of you know is one of my characters, Cardinal. Let's see, while I type and try to talk at the same time. And what I usually do for a character, my older characters that I started off with, was to take two characters and mash them together that I like and make my own version of the put together characters. Let's see. And anyways, so what I did with Cardinal was I took two characters that I really like. One was Val Cooper from X-Force, and the other was Huntress. And I put those two characters together, and I come up with Cardinal, which is basically a Batman-based character, because we have in my universe a character that was supposed to be just a throwaway character we used once, which was a mashup of Wolverine and Batman. But Renzo loved the character so much because he loves Batman that he wanted to do that character over and over again. So we started with a whole lore for the entire thing, and we have the Jays, which are our versions of the Robins, and Cardinal is our version of the Huntress. So that's what we do with my stuff. Renzo loves to do this kind of stuff. He loves Batman. So, when he did the art for the Kit Fox, which is my character, the Batman-like character I have, when he did that, he was just in his glory. So he loves doing that kind of stuff because he loves Batman Robin. All right, let me see. I'm going to share a screen one more time. Let's see. I'm so out of practice with this. It's going to take me a moment. We'll put some Batman Legends of the Dark Knight up. We'll just put that in the background for now. Anybody remember when this series came out? I remember buying this. Well, this was prestige stuff that you could only get in the comic store when it originally came out. You couldn't get it on the newsstand. Baxter paper, all that, and it was a high price point if I remember. What is it? I can't read it here. It's $1.50 Canadian, $1 American, I think. At this, so yeah, this is back when you're paying $1.50 for a comic was expensive, we'll say the least. Let's see if any people are catching up on the chat. Jules says, first time RJ reached the bottom of the chat in a timely manner. That's because I haven't. That's because I didn't do my normal 15-minute spiel of going on about something, Jules. Usually I talk for 15 to 20 minutes minimum, ranting about something. So we didn't do that today because I think it might just be a more relaxed live stream where we might leave early, we might go late. I don't really know. Vaz says, Generations. What if Superman made his debut in 1938 and Batman made his debut in 1939? What would the world's finest team look like over the years? That's a question that John Byrne posed. Okay, I got to look that up. That sounds good. I honestly have never heard of this before. I got to look that up. Thank you very much for giving me that summation of the entire thing. I'm going to, next time I go to a comic store, look for that. Next time I go to a new comic store, because traveling is the only time I get to go to comic stores these days. Let's see. Jewel says the Captain Marvel family is greater than the Batman family. Well, yes, I would agree. It's a better book. You got Superman family as well at the same time. So, I mean, but I think the thing was that the Captain Marvel family was the first family because they started the Captain Marvel family long before it even became a DC character. Long before it became a DC character. And what was it? Like Miracle Man was a copy of, it was an English copy of the American Captain Marvel, Shazam. And then you had a Miracle Man family based off of the Captain Marvel family, all that kind of stuff. So comics have been doing this for a long time. I don't feel so bad in making my characters this way and saying, yes, it is a copy of a mash together of two characters that I really like, because comics have been doing that for a long time. But I would agree, Joel, not to say that the Captain Marvel stories were always the best, but again, you get into a lot of different ways of telling the Captain Marvel stories when you get into its crossover to DC and all that kind of stuff. Vaz says it was an Elseworld prestige series. Okay. Well, that would make sense, Vaz. 1999. Yes. You're going with Elseworld with that kind of a story, which they should still be doing Elseworld, if you ask me. Not all this, just throw it a book and who knows where its continuity lies. Manny says, I was just wondering if anyone had seen the new Batman animated movie. I think it's called Batman Aztec. I am wondering if it's worth the watch. As far as I know, Manny, most people, I have not seen it, but most people railing against it are basically saying Batman is an Aztec priest who, we don't want to glorify Aztec priests because they were the most savage people in the world, basically. Not only doing human sacrifices, but torturing children for the pleasure of their gods. So, there's that. Rex says, RJ, truthfully, if they did amalgam Marvel DC fusion today, I think it'd make more sense to fuse Batman with Iron Man, billionaire playboy with fancy gadgets and strained ally relationships. That actually does make a lot of sense, Rex. Not for power levels, but you're kind of right. For what Batman is today, I would agree. For what Batman was back in the day, when Jim Aparo and my version of Batman that I love, I would say it made more sense. I wouldn't say Wolverine made a whole lot of sense. It's just, your most popular characters mashed together, but it would make more sense for other characters to be combined with him. And well, that's kind of the thing I was going to rail on at the first. I forgot. I was going to talk about Batman for a couple of minutes, so I'll do that now, and then I'll get back to the chat. What is it? Oh, yeah. Here's the thing about Batman that I've been thinking about over the last week, and I wanted to talk about it a little bit, was the fact that I've been thinking about murder mysteries and detective stories and all that kind of stuff, because I've been going through a lot of this psychological stuff for my videos. And one of the things is that you gain pleasure. It's not just a dopamine hit, but pleasure is basically a dopamine hit. It's a chemically in your brain, right? You get from a lot of things. You get it from eating. You get it from it's a quick hit of dopamine. So it's supposed to be a really short-lived thing, but the next in line, usually they say, is tryptophan, which is a more prolonged, we'll say it's not a high, but it's a good feeling. And you get that good feeling with working with other people and solving problems together with other people. And you don't actually get that pleasurable high of the brain chemical tryptophan without actually doing it with other people. So you could say solve the same problem yourself and you might feel good about it, but you get an extra boost of feeling when you actually solve the problem with other people. And I've been thinking to myself, well, that would explain, I think, to me, the reason why mystery stories and detective stories are actually so popular, because one of the things about reading is you get to feel like you're, long form reading with books and novels and, series like comics, is you get to know the characters so well that they become like friends to you. And so you get to solve problems with them, so to speak. But especially within detective kind of stories, you get to solve a problem with them as if you're trying to figure out the story beforehand with them as they do it. So it actually engages that part of your brain. And to me, that's the core of the Batman that I love so much, which is the Jim Aparo era of Batman. He was a detective. That's what Raz Al Ghosh actually nicknamed Batman. He called him the detective all the time. The modern Batman is super preparedness man. He just tries to prepare for all eventualities. And that's not a detective. And I know it might be harder to write a detective story these days, especially with the level of writers that you have. But I think that's the core of Batman and why Batman has endured so long. And current DC, well, they're going to lose in not too long a time their exclusive rights to Batman anyways. But them not concentrating on that form of Batman, to me, does a disservice to Batman and does a disservice to the people who really like Batman, because I think that's the best iteration of the character. And the character was built off of that type of detective stories anyways, because he was a copy of the Shadow. And that's what the Shadow was. I mean, the Shadow was, to some extent, he was not himself a detective. Most of his company, basically the people that worked for him, he had a large network of people that worked for him in order to solve the mystery, and he would just be the heavy hand that would come down, the heavy hand of justice that would come down at the end. But again, it was a detective story, and those detective stories were basically the bread and butter of your Shadow stories, which then the copy of the Shadow, what the Batman was a copy of it as well. The early Batman comics, the first detective comics where you had Batman in them, you even had things where you had, I always talk about this every once in a while when I talk about Batman, you had advertisements in there. We'll call them as advertisements. They're basically one-page shorts discussing how the law system worked, or what a habeas corpus was, or how fingerprints worked, and how detectives use fingerprints, like actual cop detectives use fingerprints, all this kind of thing. And it was very much centered around that. To me, I think that's, again, because of the extra high that people get in working with others and solving a problem, that feeds into the detective story genre itself, and was part and parcel of what Batman should be. Anyways, that was my little rant about Batman. And that's why I like the Jim Aparo. That's part of the reason why I like the Jim Aparo era of Batman, even though more than Jim Aparo worked on Batman at that time. He worked with, at that time, like there was a Sherlock Holmes crossover with Batman at that time and all that kind of stuff. So anyways, let's see. Vaz says, comics now about $5, if not more. $1 is a steal. $1 is a steal, yeah. Back in the day, it wasn't. Let's see. Michael says, to me, absolute Batman looks like Spawn. The muscle, the spikes, the belts, the oversized weapons just scream Spawn to me. Yes, probably a copy of Spawn. Let's move this down, Dark Knight, a little bit more. Let's see. Rex says, also, to solve the problem of characters, I think Supergirl should undergo a Nightwing style arc and become Power Girl. Oh, that would be interesting. I'm not entirely sure it would take, but it would be interesting. Let's see. Scrolling down. Miss Maria, how you doing? Miss Maria says Batman and Wolverine combined was so cool. To me, I like the Amalgam series. I really, really like the Amalgam series. It was fun for me. But the crossover Batman Wolverine didn't quite work for me. It sounds like a cool character, but I don't think they did it justice. Jules says Wonder Woman and Thor, she or he could have the lasso tied to the handle of the hammer and swing it around. I suppose. There'd be other ways you could use that. Let's see. What about a whip? That would be good. That would be good. Turn the lasso into a whip. Deadpool and Harley Quinn for amalgam. That might work. Jules says John Zatara and Doctor Strange. That would be good. That would be good. Red Hood and the Punisher. Jewel also says. Miss Maria says, would he have a daughter? I don't know who you're talking to or what you're discussing, but I like the Red Hood and Punisher idea. Elijah is here. How you doing, Elijah? Has said, I went back to basics. I ditched Batman and delved into the Shadow. Great to hear. I love the Shadow from when I was a kid. Again, I have to put this caveat in. I was not around anywhere near when the Shadow was on the radio, but at the time that I was a kid, you could go to your local library and take out records. And the records that I would usually take out would be the old Shadow radio plays, which I used to listen to over and over again. So it was something I did as a kid. That says, isn't current DC detective work done on Batman always ends up being subverted in the end and always invalidating everything you could have come up with? Yeah, see, that's the thing. I haven't read any real Batman stories off of the comic rack for a while, for a couple of years now, but the last one I read, it was just basically he was using supernatural. He was basically something which was supposed to be detective work, but also combined some supernatural elements to it that he got from, I don't know, Dead Man or something like that. And so it didn't make any actual sense to, as a detective kind of thing. It was just, I don't know. It was just something that I'm sure the writer thought was cool. Jules says combination of Metamorpho and Venom. Okay, that would be interesting. Bizarro and the Thing. Rex says, RJ, I said what I did because Power Girl is an older alternate version of Supergirl, and they kept her around but didn't really know what to do with her. In some iterations, yes. I don't know if she is again. The Power Girl during the, let's see, mid-'80s was an Atlantean, so, they switched around the origin for Power Girl for a while. So I don't know where they have it now. Let's see. We got some other people in the chat that have just arrived. Great to see. Elijah says, RJ, have you seen the Shadow? Are you talking about, I don't know if they made any new Shadows. You're talking about the late 80s, early 90s movie of the Shadow. I'm looking at a VHS copy of it right now on my shelf. Yes, I saw it in the theater, if you're talking about that version. Let's see. Vaz says, wouldn't that mean there would be two Power Girls? There might be two Power Girls. Green Lantern and Iron Man is what they actually put together in Amalgam. Jewel, they actually did Green Lantern and Iron Man in Amalgam, the original Amalgam, which was the series that came out. Again, I tag everything as late 80s. But yeah, it was late 80s, if you ask me. Let's see. RJ says, or Rex says, RJ, they ditched the Atlantean origin and have had the AU Supergirl origin back in place since the 2000s. Okay. So it was interesting. The Atlantean origin was interesting because they had to know a whole backstory. They had, they came out with books. I can't remember who the artist was for those books. He's I think he did some Conan as well. He's very, very unique. Anyways, but they had a whole mythology going on for Atlantis. They did a mini-series, or was a maxi series for Atlantis. And then you had that sorcerer that came from Atlantis and all the other things tied in with a lot of different stuff. Constantine and Iron Fist. I don't think those two would go together. But I don't know. Maybe it's my aversion to Constantine or some versions of Constantine. Captain Marvel and Captain Marvel. That might be an interesting duo. All right, let me put a couple more covers on here. Let's see. Let's scroll down and see some good Batman covers. Who is doing this stuff? I can't remember off the top of my head who's doing the covers. Klaus Janson, obviously. Grant Morrison, Klaus Janson, but was it Klaus Janson exclusively? I'm not sure, because Klaus Janson is usually just a an inker. He was Frank Miller's inker for the longest time. I don't remember if Klaus Janson did anything more, if he was doing these things by him, doing the first Dark Knight by himself, which would make sense because, again, the Dark Knight, Legends of the Dark Knight is supposed to be come off of Frank Miller's Dark Knight, which I do believe Klaus Janson did the inks for Frank Miller's Legend or Dark Knight to begin with. Let's see. There's some bad covers here as well, but scroll down. Here we got into some beautiful, I wouldn't say iconic covers, but beautiful covers that they're basically evergreen covers that really don't have a whole lot to do with the story. But that was a lot of the Dark Knight series. It just, it was floundering for a little bit after it opened up, and people got to see a different version of the Dark Knight. Let's go back here and see. We'll go to, we don't want a Catwoman. Let's see. Let's go to some actual Batman books. Nope. Let's go back to, here we go. It's not quite Jim Aparo. It's after Jim Aparo. Oh no, Jim Aparo did the insides. It was Wolfman, Aparo, and DiCarlo. So I think Aparo did the insides, and he didn't do the covers, obviously. Oh, there's iconic covers for you right there. Batman, Dark Knight, Dark City. Again, beautiful books right there. I just love this version of Batman. The Batman, that brings to mind something else for Batman. It was the Cosmic Odyssey version of Batman. Really liked the Cosmic Odyssey version of Batman. That's a series that I adore. The Cosmic Odyssey series. It was great. But it gave you a version of the Batman because there was a strain of a Batman story underneath the entire thing, because if I remember correctly, it started out Batman got entangled in the entire thing because during one of Apocalypse's failed invasions of Earth, he opened up a boom tube to let some parademons in and attack the Earth, and one of the parademons got stuck there when they all retreated, and he was stuck in Gotham City, and he went underground and started living in the sewers and was hunting people, and it was basically, he was eating them, and Batman was trying to track down this killer, and it was a whole thing. To me, it was a great story, even though it only made up a small portion of the Cosmic Odyssey. Let's see. Elijah says, I meant to ask if you saw the Shadow movie with Alec Baldwin. I thought it seemed so good. With what I saw, Darkman series better though. I would say yes. That's what I'm talking about. The Shadow that I'm looking at, like I have a VHS version of it on my shelf right now. Because I saw that in the theater. Yeah, I loved that Shadow. And that was after me listening to those radio plays when I was a kid. So, to me, it did bring back a spirit of the Shadow. A lot of people thought it was more supposed to be a kids movie, and that's why I don't think it did well. But it was too dark for a kids movie. But it wasn't supposed to be a kids movie. The Shadow uses guns. The Shadow kills people. The Shadow, not so much on the radio plays, but that's the original character. People die a lot, and if you're going back to original Shadow stuff. So I think the Alec Baldwin movie did it was a valiant, not just attempt, but it was a valiant way of dealing with a new version of the Shadow, and I wish it had taken off. I really did. Rex says, funny enough, Sam Raimi, who made Darkman, owns the film rights for the Shadow. Really? I did not know that. I would love to see more Shadow. Let's see. Starman 90s and the Ghost Rider. The 90s version of Starman. I never liked Starman to begin with. Let's put it that way. No version of Starman did I really like. And the 90s version, it was just odd as compared to the other versions of Starman. So I don't know. I don't know about that, Jewel. Let's see. Rex says Ghost Rider and the Spectre or Etrigan the Demon. Yeah, it's a Ghost Rider and Etrigan the Demon would probably be better. Spectre is more of a cosmic character. Let's see. Scrolling down. Elijah says, I'm not a fan of Jim Aparo's art. I love Jim Aparo's art just because I think it fits Batman so well. But again, it's the darkness to it. Jim Appero's art. Jules says Constantine and Iron Fist don't go together at all, and that's why it would be interesting. Okay. Elijah says, how could Batman take down a parademon? How did he take down the parademon? I don't remember off the top of my head. He was basically, the parademon was weakened because he was cut off from Apocalypse. So at the same time, I don't remember how he took him down eventually. Funny enough, I should go back and read Cosmic Odyssey. I really should. Jules says, I love the 40s Starman. All right. Well, I've been going for about 50 minutes here, and we got to the end of the chat at least 3 times. So I think this is good. Getting back into our Make Comics fun again, or at the very least, talk about fun comics. And I want to thank everybody for showing up tonight for this random live stream that I just threw up, and everybody was here within 15 minutes or within an hour at the very least. So I didn't even advertise it for very long, and I'm extremely thankful for you, we'll say regulars that come into my chat. Wednesday is a real pleasure to me, and I like talking fun comics and fun things about comics with John or with you or with anybody else. So, thank you everyone, especially after the crappy month that I had. So, I apologize for the Wednesday live streams drying up, and I love the fact that you all came back just at a moment's notice. Thank you so much. All right, I'll leave it there, and I will see you all either on one of my Saturday normal videos or next week. We'll hopefully come back next week and be here. If I can't be with John, well, I might do one with John later in the night. John might be able to do one later in the night, he said a couple of weeks ago. Well, it was actually more than a month ago he said that. So who knows what a schedule looks like now. We'll see if we can get one going with John and do some fun things with comic book team up. All right, I'll leave it there. I'll see you all later. And I'm not going to play any outro at all. I'm just going to end the stream. So